Welcome to the current. A lot of people in construction talk about growth, bigger turnover, bigger teams, bigger projects, but far fewer talk about what it actually takes to build a business that can grow properly behind the scenes. Because growth without structure will break a business just as quickly as it can build one. And today's guest understands that firsthand, starting out on the tools, then growing through the industry into leadership, now helping shape the systems, people, and processes behind a business scaling the right way. And what I respect most is even at that level, they're still investing in their own development, continuing leadership education alongside the role. Today, I'm joined by Keith, Operations Director at Bluestone Design and Construction. Keith, welcome to the current. How are you?
Good, thank you. Thanks for having
We're
me.
really looking forward to the show today to see some of the lessons that you've learned along the way. But to begin, let's just start with a little bit of context. For someone who's listening who maybe hasn't come across Bluestone before, what do you guys do today and what does your role look like?
So Bluestone, a predominantly a roofing contractor. We do dabble in a little bit more construction in other areas, but mainly associated work with roofing. We've been in business now for 21 years, so 22 years this year, and we predominantly work in the MOD sector. We carry out roofing. We often act as a principal contractor on site, so we manage the works, make sure that it's all regulation. Yeah, so that's pretty much what we are and what we do. We're predominantly, I suppose, we're still an SME in terms of the size of the business, but we are growing. And kind of my role in the business is to make sure that the systems and the processes are in place to make sure that we've got a strong foundation, make sure we don't fall over in that growth pit.
I like it. Thank you very much. Now, Keith, I did mention on the outset, obviously, we know your journey, you started from the tools, now obviously through to your current role. Could you just maybe briefly talk me through that journey, how you managed to go from roofer to where you are now? Is that okay, please?
Yeah, absolutely. In my early years, I went to college, and I studied law and communications and small PE. However, whilst I was at college, I lost one of my brothers. One of my older brothers had died whilst we were in college. We lost him to suicide. So yeah, kind of my learning went out the window a little bit. I went a little bit off the rails. So I ended up going to work with my another one of my older brothers as his labourer. So flat roofing, that's what we did. We were pretty good at it. We worked for different companies, self-employed, and he worked me pretty hard. And then around about 2004, Rich was approached by two other guys that we worked with who worked. One was a draftsman, one was a director of business, and they wanted to start a new business. So they'd bring in like the different kind of mindsets into that. So you had someone who's set the works up and run projects, perhaps managing and whatnot. You had my brother who was from the actual cob face, and then you had Perry who was a director and run businesses in our sector. And they began the business in 2004, which I come across. I worked for them on the tools. So I was out on site at the beginning, which was as well, and he started to move more into the office and work running the business as opposed to in the business. He was kind of working on the business. Yeah, and then 2007, I made a decision to move to Australia. I was a semi-professional rugby player, and I signed for a club in Adelaide. So I moved there in 2007, kind of a year out, I suppose. Done some travelling, done some partying, played some rugby, got a great job working in a coffee shop, which is one of the greatest jobs I've ever had in my life. Because I had an English accent. All I did was I was just sent out on the floor to speak to people, and everybody else had to work really hard, and I just had this great job of just going to do what I do best, and that's talking. I spent a year there, then I come back to the UK, 2008, 2009, late 2008. Didn't really have any idea what I wanted to do, and didn't have any real work, so I kind of dabbled in different projects. I went and worked, done a bit of construction and groundworks with a friend of mine, and then I ended up falling into an engineering company. I learned how to be an engineer, which then progressed me into becoming an operations manager for that business, which I was for the best part of 12 years. As a 21, Richard, my brother, we were talking, and we'd had many kind of late night conversations and over beers about me coming back into Bluestone, how that would work and what it would look like. And at the time, we really couldn't think of a role. There wasn't a defined role there. So it was agreed that I'd come in almost on a consultancy type basis, not a traditional kind of consultancy, but just come in, look at what the business was doing, see if there's anything there, improvements I could make, or ideas that I could bring to the party. Yeah, and that kind of, we haven't looked back since then. And around about a year later, I was promoted into the operations director role, and that's where I am today, really.
Amazing. Thank you very much for sharing your journey, and really appreciate you as well. And would you say there's anything in particular that shaped the way you think about the operations now, maybe from being on the tours, even your travels, or anything in particular that changed the way you do things now?
Yeah, I think it's a great question, but predominantly to me, any business is about the people. So whether they're people are the people that work for you, or whether they're the people you work alongside, whether the people that you work for, clients, whoever, everything's about people, and it's about relationships. And that's the way I've always kind of tried to work. I had a teacher at school who was an expert Marine, and he really installed that into me. And I think that was a real key component to the way that I kind of work and how I manage people. I try to look at it from their point of view, not just from at my point of view or the business's point of view. Try to look at it holistically, and kind of think, well, actually, this isn't all about us. This isn't all about what we need to achieve. This is about we need to achieve it as a collective, and look at kind of what their driving forces are and why they come to work, and what they're trying to achieve in their lives. So really, that's kind of the way I look at it from an operations point of view. And that's with suppliers, that's with clients. Yeah, and I try to have a kind of a collaborative mindset in a way that it try to work with people as opposed to against them.
I like it. I like it. Yeah, people first, because I think people forget as well the definition of company, which I guess we all have companies, is a collection of people to keep company. So
Yeah.
business is all about. You mentioned as well, coming into your role now as a bit of a unique way to enter the leadership, maybe coming in, observing, and then improving. Was there any quick things that you noticed when you first came back about Bluestone, or
Yeah, I think so. I think uh, initially it was interesting to kind of watch my brother, because what I noticed from him was kind of, without really realizing, is I'd picked up a lot of my traits from him from my kind of early days. So I could see that there was some really good kind of ethical ways that he deals with people, and the way that he works. And I could see that in myself, and that was interesting. So initially, my initial thoughts were that the business was really successful, and it had a kind of quite a big growth just previous to me joining. And I think that the key thing that I took is that actually it is successful, and actually the DNA of the business is really good. The things that maybe were missing were some of the processes and procedures that were just that underpin the business, that they were kind of not missing. They just probably weren't documented as well as they could have been. And that was my kind of start point. The start point was, okay, let's get that right. Let's try and implement them. Obviously, with change in any business, change is really difficult to implement. And the key is not to try and make too many changes early, because people will just rebel against it and kick back, and then you end up with a bat on your hands. So it's kind of drip feed it in, try to kind of get everybody on board, make them feel part of the process, make them feel part of the journey. And then it feels like we're doing it together, as opposed to, this is what I want and this is what you're going to do. It's okay, this is what we want and this is how we're going to do it together. So that was initially was the thoughts. It's actually the company, and what the business is very successful, and it's a very DNA of the company is excellent, really good. And there's just some minor changes that we need to bring in at the procedure level and process level, just to make sure that we as a business can continue to grow and continue to be successful. And kind of one of the points that I think you made right at the beginning is, everybody talks about turnover, and really turnover is just is an egotistical way of looking at things, because without you, as a business, you've got to make profit, and if you don't make any profit, then you haven't really got business. So it was important to me that we kind of stop looking at turnover as a metric, and start to look at how we can increase even if we decrease our turnover, how we can increase our operating profit to make sure that we are still growing as a business, even if it looks like our turnover is shrinking. So we did, I think in the first year, the turnover did decrease slightly, but our operating profit increased massively. And that's not, I'm not taking the credit for that. That's a business. The business was just, it's being run in a good way. So that was my initial kind of takeaways from the first couple of months of being back involved.
Amazing. You mentioned sounds like you're able to increase the efficiency of the operation so you can obviously increase the profit, which is ideal in any business. Can you think of any ways how you're able to do that practically, or maybe some advice you could give to people thinking about doing the same, what they can start to look at, or foundations, or?
I think the key to anything in business is planning, so to ensure that you've got a plan in place, but also think about how you can break that plan. So you've got to look at what could go wrong, and have contingency for where's the dangers here? What are you looking at? I think one of the important things that we try to do, and we're getting increasingly better at, is planning for all eventualities within reason, obviously, to make sure that we can ensure that when that thing happens, that we know it could happen, and therefore we've got a plan if it does happen. So planning is one of the big things. And as a business, one thing that we do as at Bluestone is that we try not to act as in silos. So as a bit, we don't, even though we have contract managers that look after a certain project, they're not left it's not left to them as in that's yours, go and deal with it. We work really collaboratively together to try and ensure that every part of our business is involved in that. And then so we take the wins together and we take the losses together as well. So when things go really well, everybody can pat each other on the back. And if things go wrong, which inevitably they do, we're not pointing fingers and saying, well, it's your project, it's down to you. It's something that we kind of all look at, and whether that's our accounts team or the admin staff or contracts managers, site managers, everybody's part of it. For instance, we have the directors, we sit in the same office together. So we have two joint managing directors, Lloyd and Richard and myself. And we sit with our estimators and our senior contracts manager. And we have quite open dialogue on problems. So if there's a problem, someone will say, look, I've got this problem. What do you think? This is what I think I should do. And we have some real good conversations around that. And the same with our contracts managers. They sit in the office next to us, which we have both doors always open. So everyone's really listening to each other all the time. And we kind of have an open door policy where if you've got any ideas, bring it to the table. No ideas is necessarily a bad idea, but we try to help each other out to make sure that if there's something, someone might have a bit of experience in a previous project, go, do you know, that's happened to me, and therefore this is what I think we did, and this is what worked with us, or this is what we did and it didn't work, don't do that. So yeah, that's how we kind of try to mitigate any of those issues.
Yeah, thank you very much for that. Sounds like focusing on the teamwork, because it is a team and working together, bouncing off each other, using a bit of a sounding board. I like that open door policy as well. You did briefly touch on it though, talking about implementing change. Now we think about change, it's not easy for anyone, but especially I guess you could say in the modern world where it feels like everything's changing very quickly. How would you say the best way to get buy-in from the team is? How have you managed to get buy-in when it comes to slowly incrementing change over time?
Great question. I think predominantly it's transactional. See, you've got to there's got to be something in it for everybody. So it cannot be just we need to do this and therefore you are going to do this, because people just don't. They don't. It's what do I get out of it, right? And so there has to be some kind of transaction. Okay, look, if we do this, this is what you're going to get from this, or this is a process we're going to bring in. So therefore, this is going to aid you by this or something. So initially, I think that's a really important part, and also making people feel part of the journey, part of whatever the change is. Make it personal to them. Make them feel like they are part of it, and they have a say in how it happens. So very rarely do I'm not very I'm kind of a director in the way that I tell people what to do. I'm quite a diplomatic kind of manager in terms of that. I will kind of put it to the room. Okay, well, what do you think we should do? And then we could look at it. Obviously, there are times when you have to be authoritarian, and if there's times of crisis, then there are decisions need to be made quickly, and it isn't really up for discussion because it has to be made now. And actually, the buck stops with me, so therefore, I'm the person that needs to make this decision, and it needs to be made at this point. But in terms of kind of implementing change, the most important part for me is, one, make a transaction, make sure that there is something in it for everybody, and two, make sure that they feel part of the process, part of the change, and it's being that everybody's thought of. So we're looking at it as from a holistic point of view, as opposed to just looking at it from the business point of view or personal point of view.
I like it. Allow them to be part of your journey and I guess get their input and lead from the front, not with a whip from behind. Keith, you've mentioned a lot about people, and I know obviously that's close to your heart. You mentioned why as well. But just a quick question: where do you think construction and our industry as a whole maybe still gets it a little bit wrong when it comes to culture, people, and even leadership?
Um, quite strong views on this. So I think one of the biggest problems we have in construction in the UK is that we're governed and by the wrong people. So we are essentially, there are forums of construction that are run by tier one contractors. Now, predominant construction in the UK is predominantly carried out by SMEs, micro businesses, self-employed people, not tier one contractors. An SME could be, I mean, Bluestone, we're kind of to the bigger side of the SME business. But some SMEs are one gang of guys. You've got a guy that runs a gang. He's got three guys that work for him. He's the managing director. He's the accountant. He's the marketer. He's the salesman. He's the health and safety manager. He's everything. He's every single hat. He's got to put a different hat on every single hour, every single day to make sure that his guys get paid, to make sure that he's compliant. And I don't think if you took a CEO from one of the tier one contractors and said, "Okay, go and do that for a week," I don't think they'd be able to carry out what these guys do. And they're on the ground, they're carrying out the works as well. And I think in construction we are governed. We've got CITB. What's happening with that at the moment, which is a complete and utter farce, in my opinion. It feels like that the small guys or the smaller guys are the people that are the brunt of it. Um, all the companies are having to be as compliant as a tier one contractor, which is not sustainable. And unfortunately, in the construction industry, we are seeing more and more companies, self-employed businesses, small businesses go out of business every single day because of how we are run as from the top down, as opposed to looking at it from a different way. And I think that the only way that it will get better is if we start listening to people that really are carrying out the work, as opposed to the people right at the top that aren't actually look in terms of the corporate side of things. It's a lot easier for them to be compliant because they've got a lot more money behind them and a lot more resources.
I like it. I think it's all about leveling the playing field because they have a lot more opportunities and, like you said, resources. And yeah, thank you for sharing that. I really appreciate that. Keith, we know from previous conversations, you've mentioned to me that you're now continuing your learning by doing a degree apprenticeship. And obviously, you're doing that whilst operating at quite a senior level, which is different, which is amazing. Quick question: what made you decide to keep learning?
Well, initially the opportunity kind of come to me as I was contacted through LinkedIn. One of those messages that you don't kind of normally read. You can scroll past, and I did. I read it, and I didn't think that I was eligible because I didn't finish my A levels. So I didn't. I assumed that I wouldn't be able to carry out a degree. So I emailed the woman back politely and said, "I'd be really interested in this. However, I don't think because I didn't finish my A levels that I would be eligible." And she said, "Actually, well, if you've been a manager for 3 years, then you are eligible." And I said, "Well, I've been manager for over 10 years." She said, "Yeah, great. You sound like the kind of guy we want," which was the easy bit. Now the next bit is I need to go and sell it to my director and say, "I've got an idea. One day a week, I want to take one day a week off so I can go and study." Actually, I made that sound a lot harder than it was. No, it was quite an easy sell because essentially in the position I'm in, I'm not looking to move. I've got a great job in a business that I care deeply about. For me, it was an opportunity for me to learn for our business as opposed to for me to learn more for myself. Although that's a great byproduct of it, and I'm hopefully in a few months' time, and have some letters behind my name to prove that I was successful in that. So basically, the idea behind it was that we try to grow our business, and we try to get some ideas, and also try to be critical of what the books say. It's very easy to go, this is what our book says, and this is the theory, and this is what this model says, and this is how it should all go. It should all go to plan. For me, what's been great about doing the degree apprenticeship is that you get a chance to be really critical. You say, well, actually, this is what the model says, this is what the theory says. But in practice, in a company like ours, it's not practical. It doesn't work like that. That isn't how, and that isn't how it is. And to get to kind of read about that and write essays and reports to highlight, it's really helped me kind of understand our industry better, understand our business better, and also just think different ways, maybe think outside of the box a little bit more. Certainly be more critical, and also that's more critical of myself as well, looking at a bit deeper within, as opposed to kind of just looking at the outside things, and it's helped me develop as a person as well.
I like that. Thank you for sharing as well. Sounds like it's quite an experience. What would you say is the most surprising part you found so far about maybe going back into education after quite a few years?
The biggest surprise for me is that I'm at the point now where I'm now 2 months, 3 months away from completing it. That's the big surprise. I thought after the first month, I was like, am I in the right place here? This is like, I haven't written an essay for 20 odd years, and this is a different type of essay, and you've got to reference all your work, and there's a lot of reading involved. And the surprising bit is how much I've probably enjoyed it. I've enjoyed it a lot more than I thought I was going to. I've learned quite a bit. I really enjoyed putting things together. I remember uh, I did a report recently about critical. It's a research project on critical management, and I enjoyed it so much, and I wrote a piece, and I read it back to myself, and I was really proud about what I'd achieved and how far. And I kind of went back and read one of my first essays and kind of compared, and I was like, yeah, I've come quite a long way in this. And I think for me, it's kind of lit a fire. I'm quite a social justice kind of guy. I like to make sure that everybody gets their say. I think it's lit a fire in me that's made me kind of more, how do I put it? It's made me more interested in my industry and how we can improve it, and what things that I can do to help that, and what things I can do to make sure that as a business that we are better and we do look after our people.
I love it. And we look forward to maybe reading one of those articles when you publish them on your new blog you're going to start. Amazing, Keith. Keith, now I'd like to do a bit of a quick fire questions. Now, as hard as it is, I don't want you to overthink. I want you to just give me the first answer that comes into your brain. Don't worry, there's no wrong or no, no stupid answers, like you said. You okay with that? Let's go for it. So, what makes a great leader in construction?
A communication,
One thing growing businesses neglect for too long.
training their staff,
One trait every future director should develop early.
empathy.
Best lesson you learned from starting early on the tools.
I suppose just hard work. Just grafting.
Okay. Now, one thing young people entering construction need to hear.
You are heard and seen.
I like it. I like it, Keith. You can relax. You can relax. You can relax. That was good. Really succinct as well. You did really well there. Thank you very much. Now, Keith, I always like to finish thinking about forwards, thinking about the future. Now, if you'd allow me, I want to take you in the back of my DeLorean. I want to take you all the way to March now, April 2027. We're looking back on 2026. Now, 2026 has been an amazing year. You finished your degree, you got all those letters in front of your name. You've had many more times where you've shared with the team, you've been able to develop the good culture and focus on people. Bluestone Construction, they've been growing, but at the steady rate, not where they're outgrowing themselves. And even you personally, you've been able to take some more amazing trips like we talk about. Now, what would need to happen for 2026 to be a successful year for you and for Bluestone?
So personally, for me, I've completed my degree, hopefully with first class honours. That would be completing the degree would be a success. But obviously, if I can complete it with first class, that'd be fantastic. As a business, I think with what we've got in front of us at the moment is to ensure that we deliver those projects to what we're capable of, to make sure that we deliver them to the highest standard possible, to make sure that we're still there as the go-to company for all our clients, and that we're continuing to develop our team, develop our staff, and develop our business to suit the modern market. It's an extremely difficult time at the minute for construction companies. What's happening in Iran and the Middle East, we're getting weekly price increases, and it's going to, the strain on construction is going to be humongous. And we're feeling the pinch at this time. So I suppose one of the real key bits will be that we weather this storm and make sure that we can still function as a business in these really difficult times, which I'm certain will be fine. But yeah, that would be a really successful time. And like I say, just continue to develop our team, make sure that we continue to listen to each other and work together and continue to push forward, I suppose.
Thank you, Keith. We have no doubt as well, if we had you on the show next year, you'd be telling us just how you graduated with your honours as well.
Yeah, hopefully.
Definitely, definitely. Keith, I always like to finish on a rather philosophical question. Now, I know, I appreciate it's a bit much, but if you can, what does freedom mean to you?
I think freedom means to be able to think for yourself and to be able to act for yourself in your best interests and in the best interests you want to achieve. I think far too often we are programmed to think how others would like us to think. And I think what that ends up doing is we end up creating these echo chambers of people that are just mimicking what we're told with what we're expected to think. And I think one of the things that I've really enjoyed about being back into education is the opportunity to think for myself and to be critical of other thoughts and other models and theories and also what we're kind of programmed as a society to think. So to me, freedom is all about freedom of thought, freedom of how you act. Yeah, that's about it, I suppose.
I love it. Thank you very much for sharing your thoughts as well. Keith, we just want to take a moment to thank you. Thank you for the hard work you do, and also continuing to put people at the forefront of your business, because we know ultimately that's the most important. But also being humble and remaining, allowing that fire to be lit within you, because we know that you're right. It's an important time and we need more people like you in the industry. And we know that the work that you do now and the work that you'll continue to do will continue to inspire. So I just want to thank you as well for coming on and sharing all your insights. And we're looking forward to seeing all the work that you guys would do, and even you and your future degrees and that blog that you're going to start. Keith, it's been a real pleasure. Thank you very much to the current.
Cheers,
Thank
thank
you.
you.